I let them do the talking and share their experiences on that. Big win today for T-Mobile in Chicago on route metrics. I haven't even, it's been at least 3 weeks since I looked at route. I'll definitely check out to see if they've done more updates to that. I mean, we're approaching the end of the second half here, right? So we'll get a full report in January probably. We'll see how that turns out. They probably don't have that much testing left. They probably wrap up testing like the first week of December. And then it's just working on completing the report. All right, we'll see how things turn out. What's going on, Lil V 1008? All coverage maps are a little suspect, man. I ain't gonna lie. I don't think it's one carrier specific. They all kind of fib. They all kind of lie. Colorado Springs soon. That you should be seeing some of that pretty soon. Yeah, absolutely. All right, folks. Let's go ahead and get this show started. Let's do our first story here. We're like 13 minutes in. I'll make sure that I do edit this for the replay crew. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 items in tonight's show. I do hope you guys enjoy it. I do have links in the description, in the show notes for all the stories we covered today. So if you want to refer to those things and check those out, you can. All right, guys and gals. Actually, I think we're good. I think we're lined up. All right, so this actually, for those of you that know who Vodaphone is a company that used to be a partner with Verizon and Verizon Wireless. They owned like half of the company. They have since sold that half to Verizon themselves, and Vodaphone also operates a carrier in Europe. Anyways, the reason why this is important is because we have been talking about inflation, and we have been talking about price hikes from the likes of AT&T and Verizon. We haven't seen direct price hikes with like plans with T-Mobile because of the merger agreement and concessions and deals to price lock. We don't know if they're going to do that after the 3 years are up. We have no idea, but we'll see how that plays out. But here's Vodaphone. They've increased their prices based on consumer price index. You guys may have heard the word or the letter combination CPI. The consumer price index is essentially like consumer spending trends. The price index indicates like the impact of inflation. Normally I would never cover this, but because we are in such a unique economic time where we do have a lot of inflation, our bills have increased, the cost of living have risen, and most people are making more money, but they're also spending more money in their just cost of living. Okay, so Vodafone's raising pricing. There's the brand. It says the stock was down 6% after today's earnings report. I didn't even pay attention to their earnings. Okay, so Vodaphone seems to be on the defensive during its fiscal Q2 2023 earnings today. The group has telco networks in Europe, Asia, and Africa. Vodafone Group CEO Nicholas Red said the company had experienced a slowdown in Europe, and he said it was taking actions such as changing its pricing plans to reflect inflation and planning to reduce its costs by $1 billion over the next 3.5 years. Well, it's euros, but okay. Energy costs, higher inflation, putting pressure on Europe. Critical component of every operator here talking about pricing. And you're going to see that across the board. Oh, no. Okay, so prices for those customers are going to be increasing for them. In the meanwhile, they're going to be looking to reduce operational costs and raise prices. The company still evaluates every market for tolerance to price increases. Factors include the quality of its service, competitors' pricing, and its fixed business versus mobile business. Fixed business is stuff like home internet. That's probably like business internet, and then the mobile business is just like mobile service, wireless service. Okay. All right. So in terms of cost cutting, they will achieve it through streamlining, simplification of the group moving forward. This means they're going to be firing people. See, you gotta love it. when is there going to be like a CEO or a company that just calls a spade and says, hey, costs are going up and we want our profits to remain high. We want to keep our margins up and we don't want our revenues to be sucked away by payroll. And then they could just call a spade and say something like, we're going to be laying off 5,000 employees. That will help improve our overhead. And then people would respect that. They'd say, okay, well, they shot us straight. But no, we get things like streamlining simplification of the group moving forward. This is stupid. Vodafone sold a portion of its ownership in Vantage Towers to investment companies KKR and Global Infrastructure Partners, who formed a joint venture. The operator will receive at least $3.2 billion from the deal based on equity from those companies. Okay, so they freed up some cash. By creating that new venture, Vantage will be able to grow its co-location business and pursue new business opportunities from small cells, DAS systems, and edge computing. All right, so they're going to be doing basically what Crown Castle and American Tower do, as well as some of these other RAN manufacturer or RAN installation companies. Additionally, the CFO, who would be the money person at Vodafone, said in the near term the priority is deleveraging. Macroeconomic conditions, they will be allocating those changes to strengthen the company's balance sheet. The company's stock was down 6% after earnings, the lowest since 1997. We're encouraged to see the stronger action being taken on pricing, as we believe from a sector-wider perspective this is what will be needed in order to improve investor sentiment, but this could take at least 6 months to become more visible for Vodafone's Euro business. All right, so if you are an investor in Vodafone, you are not going to be seeing good returns for at least the next 6 months. It looks like they're guiding for some pain. All right, so I know a lot of people have made a big deal about inflation in the US. Everybody likes to assign blame to certain people. There's political agendas and context to that. Here is Europe. Here is an international company that is doing the exact same things that American companies are doing and has nothing to do with any one person, any one leader. I've tried to explain this to people on many occasions. There is not one person to blame for the last 3 years of faulty economic downturns, right? There's no one person to blame. Every single country is going through it and dealing with it. And then companies want to continue to keep their pockets fat, so they just raise prices. It has nothing to do with one person. It has nothing to do with one political party. It has nothing to do with any of that, and everything to do with the macroeconomics across the globe. It's just more proof and evidence of that. I think most sensible people understand this, but I think what ends up happening is everybody's so frustrated with their bills. They're so frustrated with the inflation. They just want to blame someone for something. And, you know, I'm sensitive to that. I understand. I know when people are frustrated, they say some things out of anger and frustration, and they just feel like the most sensible thing would be to just assign the blame to someone. But it's important to keep a level head and call a spade a spade. These are things that are beyond one person's control. So anyways, just be on the lookout for maybe Verizon and AT&T to maybe toe the water with some other kind of price increases. It is not out of the realm of possibilities. In fact, I'm pretty sure John Stankey, the CEO of AT&T, even mentioned they could continue to use price increases as levers. Do they do that? I don't know. Do they try everything else first? Maybe. But we'll see. But here's another carrier, another part of the globe, showing these things. Okay. All right, so that's our warm-up. That one was pretty quick. Would we cover it in like 7 minutes or something? All right, we got some Verizon news for you guys here. I pretty much every carrier is represented in today's podcast. This live stream, I got a little bit of everything. Okay, so to get things started with this story first, this is from Verizon's News Center. You guys can find the link to this article in the description as well. Verizon to deploy high-speed broadband to rural households in central New York. I know a lot of times people feel like the big ISPs, Comcast, AT&T, Verizon, Spectrum, Charter and stuff like that, they feel like overlooked. And it's good to see that sometimes they do come to some more rural suburban areas and build out some networking. Onondaga County. I really hope I said that right. I think I did. I used to have family that lived in Onondaga, New York. I'm pretty sure this is where Syracuse is. Or very close there, if I remember. They announced today that it has selected Verizon to deploy broadband in several communities in central New York, with $11.1 million in funding provided as part of the American Rescue Plan. A $7 million investment from Verizon. Almost $18 million will be spent on bringing all fiber high-speed broadband services to over 1,500 locations in the county. Verizon is focused on delivering broadband service and the major economic benefits associated with it to central New York. We are pleased to work with Onondaga County to achieve our common goal of increasing broadband access for underserved and unserved areas in the state. The project significantly close the digital divide in that region. Verizon's bid was supported by the Communications Workers of America, or CWA. This is going to be a state-of-the-art fiber-to-premise network to areas throughout the county. So basically, this is Verizon Fios, folks, expanding into central New York. There's a couple things I do want to mention here, and this is kind of why I'm pretty happy about this. In 2021, Verizon invested $2 billion into its wireline and wireless networks and currently employs more than 13,000 people in New York State. In all likelihood, those are places in big cities. Now it's kind of going to central New York, where it's not New York City. We're talking about like the interior of the actual state. Okay, fiber speeds from Verizon Fios range between 300 megabits per second symmetrical up to 1 gig symmetrical. Here's the thing though, folks. Verizon has already shown in some parts of New York City where they have their native fiber footprint today, where they've gone multi-gig using, I think, XGPON technology. So them going to these new places, you can kind of basically deduce that they're going to be doing the same thing there. So you're going to have your entry-level tier of 300 meg symmetrical. You'll probably get a 500 tier, and then you'll get to the 1 gig symmetrical, and then there'll probably be like 2, maybe a 5 gig tier as well for something more high capacity. People can expect that with the gig service, you'll get 940 megabits per second downstream, 880 megabits per second upstream. This fiber service does not have a data cap, so you're not like stuck at 1 terabyte and then you got to like pay more, or they, slow you down or anything like that. None of that happens with Fios. Also, if you have their wireless service, you can bundle and get the 300 megabit plan for $25 per month with autopay and any of their newer modern 5G mobile plans. Blind G Tech in the house, man. Thanks for the super chat. Oh man. Verizon has won multiple awards for their fiber and Fios service. They've also been ranked pretty highly in the consumer surveys. AT&T ranks really highly with their fiber, and so does Fios. So this is really good for the fine folks of Onondaga County. Really, really good stuff here. I know a lot of people were talking like, man, Fios doesn't expand and Verizon's One Fiber doesn't expand. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I'm not saying that they move fast. I'm just saying that they do grow. They just grow slowly. They increase their footprint selectively, and they do so at a pace they can handle. It's better than nothing. These people probably had some trash cable ISP, regional, local, unreliable, expensive. These fine folks may have had DSL, So now you're getting a fiber player to come in and have like national pricing. The opportunity to get a gig symmetrical, make people more competitive in the workplace. Allow them to be better creators. Allow them to support multi-use case scenarios in their homes. 4K video streaming on multiple TVs. Still doing all your video calls, all your meetings. You know, running your surveillance. Whatever you want to do, when you have fiber, you can do it. So I'm excited about this. I like what Fios does with their pricing. I like what they do with their plans. I think they're price competitive. The reliability seems to be there in most cases. And of course, these people who lived in these places, who's to say they even had a legitimate option before, but now they might. So I'm very excited about that. Anytime we hear about fiber expansion, we like to highlight it here on the channel. So big shout out to Verizon for doing this, expanding. And of course, you know, they're not doing it for free, folks. If you look at the money, it's there. You know, the funding is going to it. There is one reservation I have, and Dennis, you know, Dox's Dennis, he would be proud of me for bringing this up. After seeing what happened in Pennsylvania with Verizon not building out to their agreed terms, I hope that only part of the money goes to Verizon until they finish the project. Then give them all the money. Hell, finish the project, do it right, and you can have an extra 10% bonus as long as you do it right. What up, Troy? Good to see you, man. You know, that was like the worst thing, you know, when he told me about that, how in PA, they just simply didn't, you know, follow up to their end of the bargain. I hope that they've structured this contract, and I hope that they've structured the build to this so that Verizon will have to carry all the way through in order for them to get paid completely. You know, complete with the build. You know, every address that they said they would cover, that they would run the fiber to premise to, they get it. Good for these people, though, who have likely been without this type of a competitor as far back as I can remember. And big shout out to Blind G Tech again. Thank you for that super chat, man. He's right. We should have Shackles on Her Feet playing in the background. Shackles on her feet. You owe me. You put that in the background, man? I don't know, man. I don't know. We might lose some viewers, man, if they hear that in the background. It is good to see you, though, Blind G Tech, man. Thanks for coming by and appreciate the super chat. Big salute to you, sir. Big salute to everybody who's here tonight. All right, moving on, folks. All right, I told you guys we had stories from every major carrier. Here's one from AT&T. All right. AT&T is going to have a webcast from... Oh, man, this guy's name. Is it DeRoche? DeRoche? Desroches? Well, I don't... If you know how to pronounce this, if you could like type it out phonetically how it would sound, please let me know so I don't slaughter this poor man's name. I bet you he's a nice guy. Got me killing his name over here. You guys want to see his his wonderful smile there and his Dome Malone going on there. All right. Anyway, let's get this out of here. Sheesh. All right, so they're going to be webcasting a fireside chat on November 17th. What's the date today? The 15th, right? Okay, so if it's November 15th, today, then that means this is not tomorrow, but it'll be the next day. So Thursday. Are you guys interested in this? You guys care? Like, is that something you would listen to? It's a Morgan Stanley European Technology Media and Telecom Conference. So at the fireside chat will be Pascal DeRoche, maybe? Senior EVP, Chief Financial Officer. He's the CFO. All right, it is 6:20 a.m. Oh, man. Yeah, Borgrant says he probably used the skull shaver. Yeah, he got a close finish. The webcast will be available live and for replay at AT&T Investor Relations. Viewers should start the webcast a few minutes before the planned time in case the conference schedule changes. Okay, so that's all we know about this. He's going to be speaking. All right, folks, so here's what I'm probably going to be looking for. I probably won't watch this. I'm probably not going to watch this. It's at like 6 a.m. Actually, you know what? I might. I probably could because I'll be getting ready for work. and then I could probably listen to it on the drive to work. Actually, yeah, I guess I could. Give me something to do. Here's what I would want to know and what I'd expect to hear from this gentleman. As the CFO, he's the money guy. He's the bean counter, right? There's a couple things I'd be listening for. Number one is Capex. It is currently Q4. The spending for Q4 has already been allocated, planned, executed. It's done. What I want to know is, I want to know what the Capex is for 2023. I want to see if this is going to be the first year in a long time where AT&T decides that they need to reduce their Capex. Now, the reason I want to know that is because if AT&T reduces their Capex, then that means we would probably expect the C-band build to slow. However, if we don't see the Capex drop, if it maintains mostly the same level, give or take $1 billion, right? If it maintains that, then it's going to be a huge year for AT&T for the C-band build, because they got a lot of work to do, folks. They're behind Verizon with respect to the number of pops covered because they started a little bit later. They're probably like, 3 months, maybe 4 months after Verizon had already started C-band build. So they're not only chasing Verizon, they're also chasing T-Mobile, who has been building a dedicated mid-band 5G network for 2.5 years. Also partially was already built out by Sprint in 9 cities. So they're all playing behind. So I want to know that from this gentleman. I want to know what the C-band build is going to be like next year based on Capex. Also, I want to know what the fiber Capex is going to be like, because that's like the most important thing to AT&T. The fiber, they run to fiber to premise, obviously to people's homes, residential. They also run it to business. They do business enterprise, and they also do wireless, right? So, and they run fiber to their tower sites, and they want to be, I think, at 75% of running their own native fiber to sites. Verizon wants to be at 50%, that sort of thing. So that being said, when we get the Capex guidance for next year, we'll know a whole lot more about the AT&T network build of, for 5G and C-band especially. Maybe we'll get a little bit of something about their mmWave build. Wishful thinking, you never know. But the fiber thing is going to be big. We'll want to know about that, and then also C-band and wireless. Maybe we'll get a little bit of something about FirstNet, possibly. You never know. Maybe he'll discuss, promotions. He'll talk about iPhones on us, and for everyone, not just the more expensive plans and stuff like we see with T-Mobile and Magenta MAX, or Verizon, which doesn't give you the same deals on the Start Unlimited or the Welcome Unlimited. You got to be on one of their top 3 plans, that kind of thing, right? So maybe they'll discuss that. Maybe he'll talk about price hikes as a potential thing for them. I don't know. How do they plan to manage prices for their customers? Their customers are cost sensitive. A lot of people say that the T-Mobile customers are cost sensitive. They are. And a lot of people say that the Verizon customer is the most resilient, and the ones that have stuck around to this point are. But a lot of customers have left and looked for greener pastures. They've gone to big cable. They've explored AT&T. They've looked at T-Mobile as well, looking for ways to save money. So maybe he'll talk about that too. So those are my major things that I want to hear. The network build, the wireless spending, the Capex, the fiber, and then maybe some of that stuff as well. We'll see. It'll be interesting to hear his language. What types of words he chooses to use to describe the quarter as it is right now. They're going to have data. He'll have data from part of November and all of October. He could probably talk about iPhone sales too. That might be interesting. I hear that AT&T iPhone sales are phenomenal. Remember, they do have the best trade-in deal, right? The best promotions are at AT&T. Big shout out to the homie Caesar. Thanks for coming through, buddy. Appreciate you, man. I see some other fine folks. I see Baby Yoda Tex in the house. Thanks for coming by tonight. RFK Tech USA is in the house. Okay, so put that on your calendar, November 17th at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. Looks like he'll be in Europe talking. I don't know, at a fireside chat. All right, so that's that. You know, I was going to do this this bundle story too. And maybe it is pretty good to go over this. You guys are all consumers. You probably care about this, right? All right, so let's discuss this. Titled, Bundles Emerge as a Critical Weapon in the U.S. Cable Wireless War. All right, so some of the nation's biggest wireless companies are in the midst of an increasingly contentious battle with some of the nation's biggest cable companies over new broadband customers. And service bundles, discounted mixtures of mobile services, video streaming, in-home connectivity, and other goodies have emerged as a primary weapon on both sides. That's true. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and then as well as like big cable town, Comcast and Spectrum, Xfinity Mobile and Spectrum Mobile, right? They're bundling these services and then putting in these, streaming services and all this, trying to lure customers their way. But here's what they really seem to be focusing on now is, as companies, they are trying to increase ARPU. This stands for average revenue per user. You are a user. They want you to spend more money with them. So if you are currently paying them a bill for like home internet, for example, and your bill is $60 a month, the ARPU is $60. But if you get a secondary service with them, they would like to increase the ARPU. They want you spending more money with them and not with their competitors. Surprisingly, over the last 4 or 5 years, big cable has become big wireless, which is crazy. Nuts. And here we are. All right, so this from CEO of Charter Communications, the outgoing CEO, Tom Rutledge. He said, I remember when we launched the triple play for wireline, data, and video. The average phone bill in the New York metro area was about $78 per month. We brought that down to $30 a month and ended up having the majority of the customers. He's talking about promotions. Charter and Comcast have enjoyed significant success with their mobile strategies. The two companies enjoy a sweetheart MVNO deal with Verizon, according to the financial analyst at Cowen, giving them the ability to sell mobile services working on Verizon's network for prices far below what Verizon itself charges. Well, this is an interesting turn of events here. What's referred to as a sweetheart MVNO deal involves both Charter and Comcast losing money to sell wireless service. What the actual hell is so sweetheart about that? What is sweetheart about Charter and Comcast losing money to have wireless customers on their wireless service? That they don't really have their own wireless network, right? They have to use Verizon's. They pay Verizon for that access. But it's a sweetheart deal. Okay, good for you. Whatever you say. All right, it says here, analysts at Evercore, Comcast and Charter combined to capture 31% share of all postpaid wireless net adds in the third quarter. All right, so that means basically T-Mobile and AT&T got, 69%. The expectations are up from the 25% they collectively gobbled up during 2021. Comcast and Charter combined now command more than 10 million mobile customers. All right, so while they don't make money on those customers, they are glad to have them on the service because that means they are stuck with them on cable, coaxial, and home internet. And that's where their money is made. That's where the bread gets buttered. Charter recently sought to add fuel to the fire. They announced the Spectrum One promotion, in which they'll bundle home broadband and mobile services for $50 a month for 12 months. After that 12-month period, that $50 service moves to, I think, $85. And they're just hoping you don't give a damn, which of course you do. Of course you mind. Nobody likes explosive pricing. Simultaneously, Charter has always had special promotions, and this promotion is not aimed at adding broadband subs. Instead, the company is giving away cellular for a year to hook new wireless customers who have been reluctant to trust the cable company for cell service. Sheesh. That's interesting they say that. Okay, so here's somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Let's talk about this, guys. According to this statement, people are reluctant to try cable for mobile service. Well, what the hell would you call the 10 million people who have switched in the last 3 years? What the hell are you talking about? Big cable adds 500 to 600,000 subscribers every quarter. Who is reluctant to switch to them? Everybody is willing to switch to them. Look, they went from 25% so good last year. They're now at 31% so good last quarter. They're increasing their share of gross adds. They are increasing the rate of uptake. What do you mean people are reluctant to take the service? What type of nonsense is this? Guys, I'm telling you, rich people are not necessarily smart people. They say stupid things. I mean, this is pretty dumb. Just saying. They're adding customers. What do you mean they're reluctant? Maybe he's saying that more people might go to the cable operator if the price was better. So here you go. They seem to be doing fine before. Now they're going to be giving away service. Now they're really losing money. At the same time, Charter had just raised its home internet prices by $5 per month, likely in an effort to offset its rock bottom Spectral 1 pricing. I agree with that. They're probably just like, oh damn, our ARPU just went down, or I should say our margins just went down. Let's see if we can fix that a little bit. $5 is a big deal. It's a big deal to a company that has, I don't even know how many customers that they got. 30 million or something. I forget. It's been a while. So the story, the broadband story, is subscribers versus ARPU. Verizon has ARPU. AT&T has ARPU. Big Cable, Home ISP, has ARPU. Business, wireline business has ARPU. Wireless for Big Cable does not have ARPU. Right, it's all about growth. But they'll try to get it back on the home internet side. All right, so why is Big Cable doing this? Well, if you've looked at Big Cable's numbers lately, they are pitiful. Big Cable is doing awful, like the worst. They are losing subscribers to fixed wireless access. Both Verizon and T-Mobile are leveraging their mobile networks, and they're also doing home internet. Okay, so T-Mobile is no joke. T-Mobile has added over 2 million customers to their fixed wireless access. T-Mobile home internet is a smash. It is a hit with consumers. They love it. People love the Verizon service too. Those passable homes, those numbers are going to increase as both Verizon and AT&T expand their upgrades. And, you know, Verizon builds out C-band and adds mmWave, and T-Mobile builds out more 5G UC and N41 as they increase backhaul and they pick up the pace on the upgrades. They're gonna run the service to more homes, right? They're gonna pass more addresses, and they're gonna get more share. And Big Cable saw the writing on the wall last year. I should say this year. 2022 was gonna go down as the worst year for Big Cable ever. It was the year that mobile network operators became home internet providers. And we're going to look back and say, man, Big Cable is stupid for saying that they weren't going to be impacted by fixed wireless access. You knew this was going to happen because you are my informed subscribers and viewers and supporters. Big Cable was in denial. Analysts, those that push the bull case scenario for cable, they're in denial. They pretend like they didn't see this coming. That's on them. They were in denial. We knew this was coming because people want a different option. They don't like promotional and explosive pricing. And they don't like being treated like crap. And they don't like monopolies. And that's why they were, that's why these customers were so willing to leave. From decades and years of mistreatment, overpriced, poor service. All right, so look at what T-Mobile's doing, folks, to counteract Spectrum's one bundle, right? T-Mobile is now giving people 2 months of fixed wireless service for free, on top of a $20 discount if you have their mobile services and you choose Magenta MAX. Verizon is doing the same thing. Verizon will sell you the service for like $50 or $60. They'll give you an auto pay discount, and if you have their mobile network service too, they'll give you that 50% off for the home internet. Look at what they're all doing. I just want to, and I never want to forget this. Do you guys see how T-Mobile and Verizon are doing this fixed wireless access thing? T-Mobile would never have been able to do this if it wasn't for the T-Mobile and Sprint merger. You guys remember Gigi Sohn and, Letitia James, all these state attorneys general and all this that fought the merger? Well, this is what we got out of the merger. I mean, we did, Americans lost jobs. That's facts. That's facts. I'm not denying that. But for the consumer, it was a win. Look, your home ISP bills are now decreasing, and you're now getting better competitive rates and better service just because T-Mobile came to disrupt. And then Verizon wants to disrupt too because T-Mobile's disrupting. They're all fighting each other. They're at each other's necks. All because the T-Mobile and Sprint merger. 4 years ago, when me and the Bearded Dragon used to discuss this on the channel, we said it then, we'll say it now. The T-Mobile and Sprint merger was going to facilitate a legitimate third big mobile network operator, and then they were going to disrupt home internet, and they absolutely did. That is fact. That is undeniable. Big Cable is shaking behind closed doors because the thing is T-Mobile's not done. T-Mobile's going to continue to take their share of the gross net adds. Verizon is going to continue to take their share of the gross net adds. Verizon's going to end up with like 5 million fixed wireless customers. T-Mobile's going to end up with like 10 million. That's 15 million customers, folks, that could have been on Spectrum and Xfinity or AT&T or whatever other regional provider. They've got to now compete with those companies. And it's no sweat off the back of Verizon or T-Mobile. They're building out capacity on their mobile network. This is just excess capacity to them. They're just monetizing. They'll take $25, $50 and they'll say, yeah, this is great. We're increasing our ARPU. We're increasing our revenue streams from these customers. They're looking at it like, hey, why not? Might as well, right? Good for them. And to hell with cable. That's pretty much everything that's going on here in this story. Again, the story is linked in the description. You guys can comment on that if you like. Last story of the night, folks. Going to end this one on a good note. About 50 minutes in here. Dated from yesterday, November 14th. Let me get me out of here a little bit. There we go. T-Mobile turns on standalone ultra capacity 5G, touting speeds up to 3 gigabits per second. So they just did something that I think a lot of people can be excited about. No doubt. Anytime we hear standalone 5G, ultra capacity 5G, we start thinking about innovation in 5G. This is what we want. This is what we signed up for, all that. This past summer, T-Mobile released the results of a production network test that showed 5G standalone, or 5GSA, could deliver speeds up to 3 gigs per second when combined with carrier aggregation, what's known as New Radio CA, right? NRCA. The Un-carrier has officially launched its standalone ultra capacity 5G. And it says here the leader in 5G stands alone, announcing nationwide 5G standalone network to the next level, lighting up ultra capacity 5G on 5G SA nationwide. The move immediately advances T-Mobile's network, unleashing faster speeds for customers across the country while further reducing the lag on the network with lower latency, improving applications like gaming that require near real-time responsiveness. And it's another massive step towards unleashing groundbreaking new applications that will thrive on a pure 5G network. Okay, so if you want to take advantage of this, you're going to need certain phone hardware. Okay, number one, you can't have an iPhone. I'm sorry to all my iPhone lovers out there. An iPhone won't cut it. I'm sorry. Your precious iPhone cannot do what these other phones can do for now. Okay? In order to take advantage of all those carrier aggregation combinations, carrier aggregation is basically band or channel aggregation. Right, so they've got N41, they've got N71, and now they're kind of doing N25, so you might be seeing all types of different aggregation combinations. In fact, they're even talking about doing this with mmWave along with the midband, which is something that Verizon's talked about extensively in the past as well. So you're going to have to wait for the iPhone to get this. If you have a Galaxy S22, you've got the ability to do this. The Pixels can do some of this as well. That's exciting, the Google phones. Here's some of the testing that they did. Standalone N41. They're seeing 1,557 megabits. I think that's on 160 megahertz of N41 TDD. Additionally, the N25 is showing 198. I have seen this and tested this. I can confirm. And then a combination of 100 megahertz of N41 plus 90 megahertz of N41, which I don't know if they have that much for that second channel. I think they have like 60 here, maybe. They still have 20 megahertz on LTE. So here it'd be like a 100 and then a 40. And then they can do N25, 20 megahertz here, because that's what Sprint had. Okay, so I'm even with the backhaul, I probably wouldn't get this. I would probably get something like 2.5 gigs per second or something, which is amazing. All right, but this is what you could see. Okay, so you got to have the right phone, and you got to have the tower gear broadcasting those certain channel arrangements. All right, now, I unfortunately have to rain on your parade. For everybody who's excited about this, that's awesome. I'm glad you're excited about it. I'm excited about it too. But there's something that they're not telling you that could be reducing speeds in your market. There's something really, really important. And I'm not even going to just... There's other things too. Like there's densification. They've got to be able to like upgrade more and more sites. They got to densify the network. That's important. Hey, Gene. Not only the densification process, but you have to kick up backhaul. Like they're going to have to pay for 10 gig backhaul. You can't put all this spectrum on a 1 gig channel, or a 1 gig circuit. So they're going to have to kick it up a notch. They're going to have to start paying for more high capacity fiber. So that adds to their OpEx, and they're going to have to do that too. But I want to share with you guys something that's really, really important that T-Mobile's not doing in my market that's hurting their potential capacity throughput. Now, the reason I'm showing this now, and the reason I want to show you guys this today, is I keep getting questions, and I keep getting replies and comments on videos about the network performance I see in my market. People are telling me, you know, the T-Mobile performance where you're at isn't that great. Mine is so much better here. You know, and they're talking about places like Houston, and they're talking about places like LA, and they're talking about places like Miami and Chicago. And it's true about those places. Those places have higher capacity backhaul on more sites. Those places have massive MIMO antennas and radios. Like, you know, massive multi-input, multi-output radio gear. So this is something I want to speak to you guys about tonight to wrap up the show. This is a demonstration of why massive MIMO is really important and why T-Mobile doesn't really achieve and reach their full potential in my market. So here's what's happening. We just got this like press release from T-Mobile, and they said that there's all this spectrum efficiency by going to a standalone 5G network. There is. In a standalone 5G network, you can use the full bandwidth within the channel for the use of creating your throughput. You get the full channel access. In 3G, it was very inefficient. In 4G, it was more efficient. In 5G, you're getting the full efficiency. So you're getting that like additional 20% spectral efficiency. It's a win-win situation. Just by going from LTE to 5G, the full band access, no doubt, it's noticeable. It's a 20% improvement. This might be the most important thing that in and of itself makes the biggest difference for the user, which is you using your smartphones, and then also for people that are using home internet on T-Mobile, Verizon, whomever. It doesn't matter. You need massive MIMO. And in my market, they don't do massive MIMO. And there's some huge performance drop-offs because of it. So here's the difference between old legacy, old technology versus massive MIMO. Here is the traditional transmission, radio transmission, the RF configurations when you see like figures for explaining connectivity. Do you guys see all these devices here on the left? This is a single beam, right? This is a single, I don't know what just these like beam channels. Here with massive MIMO, you have individual beams going to each device. There is nothing more spectral efficient than this. This is what massive MIMO is really all about right here. This is why it's so good. This beam forming, right? It's improving the signal to your phone. The SINAR is going to be better. Your gain is going to be higher. Your beam is going to be more concentrated, so you're getting a cleaner signal. This is the move. Massive MIMO is the move. I don't see massive MIMO in my market. From one carrier, actually from two carriers. Neither Dish nor T-Mobile is using massive MIMO in my market, and it hurts capacity throughput potential. Let me give you guys another visual. This one is really good. All right, I'm going to pull me out of this for a second, okay? Here is an old legacy antenna on the left-hand side. You've got one single beam path, and it's spreading out like a sprinkler. This is a massive MIMO array. Do you guys see the number of antenna modules that are inside this antenna? You see this? Now I want you to look at the massive MIMO. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8. Instead of 2x2, there's 8x8 antenna modules that are filled with a bunch of little antennas in them, beaming individualized signals to these devices. That is spectral efficiency, folks. Massive MIMO is the truth. Beamforming is the truth. Why in the world would a company be launching equipment in 2022 that is not massive MIMO? The signal quality by these legacy antennas is going to be okay. The signal quality, the capacity throughput on massive MIMO is going to be far superior. Quality of signal, and range. Especially range. Like when we're talking about edge cell, like a lot of people are complaining, saying, uplink sucks at 1 mile. Yeah, no kidding, because you're using legacy antenna technology. If it was on massive MIMO, you would still have usable uplink at 1 mile. Look, it's a simple concept. Here's another way to look at it. I'll leave you guys with this one. Here is a 4x4 MIMO, which is an improvement over the old 2x2 MIMO. This is better. You guys see the individual beams going to all these users? Yet and still, it's not good enough. We have technologies available today that allow this to be better using massive MIMO. Every single one of these users essentially has its own unique beam to the tower site in what's called adaptive cell arrangement. Massive MIMO is the truth. We should not be launching 4x4 MIMO in 2022. We should be launching 8x8. Massive multi-input massive MIMO. I mean, what I've been seeing, and Chaim just brought it up. My goodness, perfect timing, Chaim. I have the Pixel 6 Pro, I have the Pixel 7 Pro, and what they're doing with uplink is incredible. 50, 60 megabits per second uplink on edge cell. If the conditions are good, if it's a clean SINAR, you got line of sight, things like it, it's tremendous. Let me show you guys something. And this is what the last thing I'm going to leave you with. Here is a screenshot of a speed test that I did on my couch in my family room on the main floor of the SMT HQ. This speed test was taken from my Google Pixel 7 Pro. The tower site is 1 mile away. This is N77, 3.7 gigahertz. Verizon Wireless 5G UW. This is Samsung radio gear. 535 megabits per second downlink, 39 megabits per second uplink. 1 mile from the site, in my house, on my couch. 60 megahertz channel. What's going to happen to this when Verizon decides to go 140 megahertz here? The throughput's probably going to triple. We're going to be seeing 1.5 gigs on my couch, on midband. It's a very simple calculus, folks. Massive MIMO. You could talk about spectral efficiency all day, but if you are not putting up massive MIMO antennas and radio gear, you are wasting time. You are wasting time. You are wasting money. You are going to be going back up to that site soon to put up massive MIMO gear. AT&T is launching massive MIMO in the C-band 3.7 and in the DoD 3.45. Verizon is doing the same thing with the 3.7 gear for their C-band. Dish and T-Mobile are not. They are not putting up massive MIMO gear, and it's pissing me off because they can do so much more with their assets. It's just cheaper. They're just cutting costs. That's the bottom line, folks. When a carrier doesn't deploy massive MIMO, they are cutting costs. I don't blame the carriers. Like, I don't blame Dish. Dish is trying to build a 5G network with a shoestring budget, right? Dish is trying to do like 70% of the pops covered in like 3 years. And they didn't even have enough money to do it. They had to like put out a bunch of senior notes to try to generate a couple more billion. T-Mobile, on the other hand, is more capable. They have a larger, bigger Capex. They're more capable of putting up massive MIMO gear. And I see them do it in some cities. The stuff that people send me is incredible. I like literally right now, folks, I can go into my like mentions and my ats and stuff like that on Twitter, and people are tagging me in photos showing T-Mobile getting like 1.5 gigs per second on N41. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. They're just not doing it here. Big shout out to Gene. Thanks for the super chat, sir. They're not putting up the same gear here, and they're not kicking up the backhaul either. On N41, I'm getting 1 to 3 megabits per second uplink from a mile away. On N77, on AT&T, I'm getting like 8 megabits from that same distance. And then on Verizon, I'm getting this. You see it on the screen, 39 uplink. The proof is in front of you. If you don't put up massive MIMO gear, you are not getting the most out of your spectrum. You're wasting time. And that, folks, is why people say things like 5G sucks. People say 5G sucks when a carrier does not deploy massive MIMO. They don't know what massive MIMO is. The people that say 5G sucks don't understand what massive MIMO is, but they do understand that when it performs like LTE, it's not real 5G. That's the problem. All these tower sites need massive MIMO radio gear. Stop playing games with the low order MIMO. The 2x2 and the 4x4 is passé. Okay, fine. You had all that gear up years ago. You can't upgrade it for another couple years. Fine. But we should not be putting up low order MIMO on gear on cell towers today. It is November 15th, 2022. Enough. Only massive MIMO moving forward. That's it. It's aggravating to be on edge cell on a mid-band channel getting 1 megabit per second on uplink, and you can't hold a video call. You can't do a Zoom meeting. You can't do a FaceTime. Because you got 1 uplink. You know what I'm saying? 1 megabit uplink because you're on edge cell on a mid-band channel. Unacceptable. Ain't gonna be able to do it. I'm here. Saying, man. Look, I hope you guys learned something. It's why I wanted to show you guys these pictures, to show you the efficiency, the spectral efficiency that certain presidents of technology like to talk about. Spectral efficiency. It's in the MIMO. It's not just the channels being on 5G NR. It's in the MIMO technology. It's in the hardware. It's not just the software. It's in the hardware. You got to go stand alone. You got to do this. This is how you 5G network. This. Spend the money. Do it right. So before you start bragging about this, do the damn thing. And Ricky brings up a good point. The 128 by 128. It's going to be huge, Rick. Right? Moving to FDD. It's going to be huge. Now T-Mobile did the right things by getting more spectrum. Right now they can kick up the power with N41. They did that part right, you know? And they're doing the SA stuff with the carrier aggregation. They're doing that part right. But you got to do massive MIMO. This is non-negotiable. You're leaving a lot of capacity on the table and you want to sell home internet. You got to do massive MIMO. It's as simple as that. Big shout out to Pete Fox. You're the best, man. Thank you for the super chat. Absolutely. That's it, folks. The show is done. I appreciate everybody. Thank you for those super chats. I think we had like 5 or 6 super chats tonight. So big shout out to Pete Fox, who came in at the last second with the buzzer beater with the super chat. Big shout out to Gene for his super chat as well. We had a couple earlier. One was from Blind G Tech. And then a couple of big ones from S Blue Tech, as well as Blind Tech Adventures. And Mark Hoyle. You guys are the greatest. Y'all the goats. Please do me a solid. If it's your first time here, subscribe for more. Turn on the bell notification icon to never miss an upload. Get notified whenever we do live streams or drop videos and other content. If you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a member here on the YouTube side. And you can also be a Patreon supporter We have a Patreon page. Those links are in the description. That's it. We are done for this evening, this edition of the channel, this live stream. I want to thank you all for coming in. Go ahead and drop me your favorite hashtag. Hashtag 2LiveCrew, hashtag ReplayCrew, hashtag Ravioli Gang if you were eating during this live stream. And then hashtag Mod Squad for my Blue Wrenches holding it down, keeping things under control in the live chat. That's it, man. We out this piece. You guys have a good rest of the night. Let's ride out to the tunes. We'll see you guys on the next one. Real ones know. If you're still here all the way through till the end, I know what you stayed here for. You stayed for this. Yeah!